Hello everybody, it's Verda here, and welcome to the benchmark. If you want the full specification for the PC I'm benchmarking today, look at the description. Without further ado, let's get to the settings. So we're going to be starting this benchmark at 1080p using the highest settings in the game. We're only going to be turning off motion blur and distortion because they're really ugly. I don't think people are going to want to play with that. But those are the settings. And for this benchmark, I'm going to be playing inside of a chaos dungeon, simply because it allows us to have a controlled environment to benchmark inside of. So let's go ahead and start, shall we? Alright, so it's been a little hot second here since I played this game. As you can see, the 1% lows are pretty bad. So that's usually the case in this game. Usually there's a lot of stutters inside chaos dungeons, I have found. And it's no exception here, so... yeah, at 1080p here, with the highest settings in the game, we're getting a surprising amount of FPS. And we're not GPU bound. Sorry, we're not CPU bound, which is what I was expecting here. But yeah, there's a lot of stutters here. I have the game installed on a hard drive, to be completely honest with you, which is not what you want this game to be on. But currently I don't have any drive space on the SSD on this old machine that I have, unfortunately. So I have got it on a hard drive, which is going to make our 1% lows significantly worse, no doubt about it, as we load in and out of these dungeons. So do bear that in mind. But even on my other PC, where I have this installed on a NVMe, a Gen 4 NVMe, it still has a lot of stutters and stuff at the start of Chaos Dungeons. So it's just an issue with the game, essentially. But yeah, we're getting around 40s, 50s. So this could be playable to some people, but I would personally not play like this. I would play with lower settings for sure. Our RAM usage is quite low. We're only at about 12 gigs, so if you're on a 16 gig system, you can actually play this. So if I like spam a bunch of spells at once, it seems like I do drop quite a few frames, as you can see. Like I dropped down to 30 FPS there. And the frame time graph is all over the place, which is not ideal. Okay, so that's the Chaos Dungeon done. We saw averages of around 50 FPS, but honestly, we dropped down to the mid-40s, mid-30s sometimes during that, so not amazing for sure. But what can you expect with ultra settings? So let's try out low settings, shall we? So now we're using 1080p with the lowest settings in the game. Let's see what kind of performance we can expect here. I'm going to reset my 1% lows, but I don't think it's going to matter, to be honest, because it's going to drop instantly anyways, thanks to the hard drive at the start. But yeah, even with an SSD, it's still going to drop your 1% lows. You just won't get as many stutters at the start, but you will still get stutters, guys. Let me tell you that now. That's for sure. But definitely, this game is one of those that you definitely want to have on an SSD if possible. But I can totally imagine quite a few people who are on a really, really tight budget and just have hard drives lying around still using their hard drives, right? And so I get it. I still use hard drives for some of my games, to be completely honest with you, because not every game needs an SSD to play. Like single-player titles that don't have many things to load and stuff, you can still get away with hard drives, and especially in older games, you can get away with hard drives in a lot of them. So if you've still got a hard drive lying around, you can still get some use out of it. But I think in a game like Lost Ark, you definitely should put it on an SSD for sure. As you can see, when you start the Chaos Dungeon and all the enemies spawn in, you do get a lot more stutters than if you were using an SSD. But FPS here on the low settings, we are actually CPU bound, it would seem. Yeah, we're CPU bound here. Averages are around 80 FPS so far, so not bad, but not exactly what you want to see, I guess. But yeah, we're CPU bound here at low settings, so it looks like when there's a lot of chaos going on, just a ton of enemies and stuff, like right now, you can see this, you can actually see the GPU usage is so low. So if you actually just want to see what this GPU is capable of by itself, go ahead and check my channel, because I benchmarked the GTX 1650 with my Ryzen 7 800X 3D, so clearly no CPU bottleneck in that system. So you can see its full potential there, but this is more of a budget-orientated build, right? That was fairly surprising. Shall we try 1440p low? Just for the sake of it? Let's go. Let's try 1440p low. Alright, so now we're going to benchmark 1440p using the lowest settings just for the sake of it. Since we were so CPU bound in the last test, we might as well see if we're still going to be CPU bound at 1440p low. Now, I don't know who's playing Lost Ark with a 1650 at 1440p, but we'll see if it's possible here today, because that's what we do here on the benchmarking channel. We like to just mess around with various settings and just see what you could actually do. And it does look like at 1440p low, game's telling me to loot. But it does look like we're still CPU bound sometimes here at 1440p low. Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's still 80 FPS right now where we're getting bottleneck, roughly. So it's still pretty good FPS for a game like Lost Ark, I think, personally. There we go, the portal's open. Let me through. There we go, get all these little stutters. Maybe we should have used our ultimates. You know, but we'll use it on a strong enemy, I guess. We'll give it a try. Yeah, the average FPS has been around 70 during all of this, which is quite nice, I would say. Yeah, that felt totally fine, guys, honestly. Even though the FPS does dip down a few times, if you're on such a budget PC, you can't really complain about that. And I can't believe you can actually play this at 1440p low with a 1650. Clearly, in today's benchmark, the CPU is the bottleneck, but that will probably be the case if you've got a 1650. You've probably got a very budget PC in total, and so you're going to be held back by your CPU in a lot of these games for sure. So it's going to be the normal for you, unfortunately. But yeah, that does mean you can increase your graphics a little bit, you know, if you are CPU bound. But that's going to do it for today's video. Thanks for watching, everybody. I've been the FPS Tester. Until next time, take care, and bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.